part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, welcome to the Books with Brookes monthly book club podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. We read one book a month and then we talk about it here on the podcast. Our book for October 2021 is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is a classic horror ghost story type book. Really can't wait to get into it. I'm a big scaredy cat, so it will be really fun. But this month, we are celebrating a really exciting milestone here at Books with Brookes. It is actually the 2-year anniversary of the Books with Brookes podcast. And this episode, which is a very special episode, kicks off our third season, which is outrageous. Time flies when you're reading books. That's all I have to say. So for this very special episode today, I have 4 sweet, sweet friends joining me, and we are going to talk about books versus movies. Dun dun dun. The great debate. Would love to introduce my friend Megan. You'll recognize her from last month's podcast. Hello, Megan. Welcome back.
Well, hello, Brookes, and thanks for having me back so soon. I am so excited to dive into the podcast with you ladies this evening.
Yes. Ugh. It's thrilling, truly thrilling. Also here with us tonight is Laura. Hello, Laura.
Oh, hey. I'm having some technical issues, so
Oh no.
Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, cool. I'm plugged into the wall just for you.
Yeah, I guess we could have tried to get together to do this, but honestly, COVID has just changed so much about the way we all operate. It seemed like kind of outrageous to suggest that we record together.
Yeah, and I didn't really want to put on pants, so this is better.
Right. Yes, it's much better to record without pants. We all sound better when we're not wearing pants. Also, coming to us live from her new home city of Minneapolis, Carrie.
Hi. I'm actually really glad we aren't meeting in person because then I wouldn't be able to join.
Oh, so true. So true. We're glad you're here. And of course, last but not least, our friend Beth. Hello, Beth.
Hi, everybody. I just love you all.
Love you.
So this will be fun. This is maybe the most people I've ever had on a podcast episode, so I can't wait for the chaos that will inevitably follow. I'm hoping that we can all really debate. I think people have strong feelings about this topic in general, which is like, which is better, the book or the movie? So let's just sort of generally, I'd love to go around and have you guys just talk a little bit about like, overall, what do you think is better, the book or the movie? Are you loyal to the books and the storytelling that comes along with it, or are you totally swayed by like the blockbuster of a film?
I think it depends what you found first. Like, if you read the book first, you get sort of impressions in your mind of what these characters look like, sound like, act like. And then usually the movie can't live up to what you already created in your mind.
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem, right? Especially if like it's really upsetting, specifically when they cast like an actor or an actress that doesn't match your like vision, and you're like, what?
Mhm.
No, that's all wrong. And it's like upsetting from the initial announcement.
I'm totally with you guys. Like, book generally beats the movie in my opinion. And like, if I see the movie first, then I actually don't want to go read the book because I know that like I won't be able to sort of like get a little imaginative through my reading, like, and make up the characters, certain traits or what they look like in my head. So it's like, yeah, like I'd rather start with the book and get the full experience.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So if you really like a movie and it was a book, you typically won't then pick it up and read it.
Yes, and full disclosure, The Shining, one of the books we'll be discussing, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But also because of that, I never read the book, and it was, of course, one of the books that we read in this book club, but I did not.
You skipped it.
I did skip that one, but the movie is just such a blockbuster and just such a classic.
Such a classic.
You're very brave. To like a scary movie as your favorite movie is very brave, I feel like.
Oh, I love scary movies. Oh my God.
Really?
That's like all my favorite genre.
Wow.
But I was going to say, I agree with everything everyone said, because I think like that's like the joy of reading, is that it's your own personal experience. And then when you go to see it in the movie theater, it's kind of like, because it's such a blockbuster event and so much money has been put into it and advertising and all of that, sometimes it feels like, well, this is the right way. Like, this is the way it was supposed to be, which is
Mhm.
actually like not true. Like, half of the time the author is like mortified that they did certain things in the movie they did, and but because of the way we ingest media, I think that like the movie is the sort of like the answer. It can feel that way even though it's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like in general, like obviously like the benefits of reading a book, it's like much more nuanced. You get a ton more detail. There's like a lot more character development. And then like, it's up to your own imagination to like build the visual aspect of the book and like picture the characters and stuff. But then like movies, they're much more succinct. Like the plot points are often more like simple or like straightforward. Sometimes there's really hot famous actors in it who might like really embody the character for you in a great way. And then obviously like gorgeous cinematography, like seeing a story that you love come to life visually is really special and can be like amazing. But also like it's so upsetting when there are changes and like they miss things that you loved about this original story. I think that's for me like one of the worst parts is like if I really love a book and then I have like my favorite lines and my favorite pieces of dialogue and my favorite scenes, and then those things don't make it into the film, I'm just furious. Like I just
Mhm.
come away feeling like so disappointed, like deflated, even if it was good, you know?
I agree with everything that you just said, Brooks. I feel like you can get so much visually when it comes to cinematography, and I'm a really big fan of when a director or a producer does such a good job of creating like a beautiful environment or encapsulating the feeling of a scene. But then I'm also super disappointed, and I find I'm typically disappointed in the book versus or in the movie versus the book aspect, because like you said, the book just is able to give so much more of what like the character is thinking, and you understand so much more about the character development like you said, but in the movie you just get this one facet and it's just what you see, and you don't understand very much about what the character is thinking unless they do something visually that the audience can see on the screen.
Right. You're
um
not getting the like internal monologue that we often get with the
yeah,
narrator.
exactly. So I love the book. Typically there are a few instances where I think the movie has maybe done the book justification, but I don't think I've ever been able to like the movie more than a book that I really like. And if I watch a movie that is from a book, I will go and read that book, and I usually feel like I get so much more of the story that way. And I think everyone said this, but when the movie changes things from the book, it's just so disappointing, and
I
it's
know.
just the saddest, and I don't want
Even
to.
though going in, like the entire book's not going to be there. Like they can't put every single page
Right.
into the movie. It's like that you're gonna miss stuff, but it's still so disappointing when they miss like the stuff that you think is really important, or that you think that it's just like for some reason you like really connected to like this one thing, and then it's not in the movie because it's not essential to the plot, but doesn't matter because you liked it.
Right.
Right. Or if they like the screenwriter sort of makes up
Oh
scenes.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
that's the
That
worst.
can
And
make
then you're
me
sitting there
super live
thinking
too.
like, oh my god, you're wasting all this time on this. Why are you doing that? Like we missed all this other stuff because you wasted time on
Yeah.
this.
This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like whose idea was
This
this?
is illegal.
Yes.
It's easy to get a little bit defensive when you read a book too, because like, I mean, I don't feel like this anymore, but I definitely used to feel like I was just so proud of myself that I actually read a book. Now I read more, so I don't feel
Oh.
that way anymore. But like, I used to be like, I'm so busy. I don't have time. It's academic. It's like hard to focus, like yada, yada, yada. But I do think that still is sort of an undercurrent for like a lot of people. Like if you read a book start to finish, like that's a time commitment and you did it and you feel accomplished and you feel like tied to it in a way that like a lot of times the movie just doesn't fulfill.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I will say, like, personally, I can remember books that I've read. I can't remember what movies I've seen. Like,
Mhm.
it's so much harder for me to keep track. And I think that like has to do with like the way that I learn, which is like much more visual. So like in order to learn things, I need to like read them. And so like just passively watching a movie, like I could not tell you if I've seen so many movies. I'll be just have no idea. Okay. Any other thoughts on book v movie in general? All right, then let's jump into it. Let's start with our first book. We're going to talk about these books in chronological order because that just seemed like it made sense to me. And we're going to start with the 1977 horror classic, The Shining by Stephen King. So, obviously, this book is very famous. We read it last October, everyone except for Megan, apparently. Just kidding. We read it in October. I'd never read it. I'm a big scaredy cat, so I like have not read a lot of horror like scary books. And then obviously the 1980 film by Stanley Kubrick is like a classic, starring Jack Nicholson. This movie has inspired so much, like so many other films, so many other adaptations, so much like about cinematography and the way that horror films are today comes from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. So I think it's like a really important film, which we can talk more about. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better than the book. Oh, maybe we should talk about okay. I don't even know how to quantify this, but like let's all try to explain when we pick between the book and the movie. Like why? What makes it better or worse than the other? And I'm going to force you to try to decide, even though obviously we're comparing like apples and oranges. But the point of this podcast is to pit them against each other. So let's go around and vote. Do you think The Shining, the book, 1977, or The Shining, the movie, 1980 Stanley Kubrick, is better? Someone kick us off.
I think the book was better.
Wow.
I think it was because of the subject being like, very creepy and very eerie, this huge hotel. In my mind, when I read the book, I I guess the way that Stephen King wrote made me picture in my mind just the feeling of the fear. And when I saw it on the screen, I mean, it was also very, very creepy and scary. Um, but it was just different because it wasn't how I visualized it. It was also extremely scary, but it wasn't like in the book where it was like just I felt like I was in these like dark crevices of my mind as we explored um Jack's, slow decline
Yeah.
into absurdity. It
Mm-hmm.
was just I don't know. I For me the book was very scary and I liked it better.
Yeah. A lot of dread in the book, I think.
Yeah.
Like heavy dread. All right, that's one vote for the book. Beth,
So,
you're our
you know
horror
what?
expert.
Yeah, well, Stephen King is my favorite author of all time, and I actually think that his writing that's not scary writing is even like better than some of his horror writing, but he is my favorite author and I adore him and I adored reading this book, but I had seen The Shining so many times. I've probably seen it like 10 times in my life. So I just like kind of like Megan, like I adore that movie. And so I think for me, this was sort of like an outlier where I actually feel that the movie is the book. Like I feel like I feel like they're very tied together. I feel like it's a very appropriate uh adaptation. And so I think I might like the movie better, but I will say that I
Ooh.
really in the book loved the the parts about the hedges moving around, like the animals,
Oh yeah.
that part, like I thought that was so interesting and scary and not in the movie. And I can kind of see why they didn't do it in the movie, because I think it might have ended up being funny. But in the book, like that he was turning around and they would be like a rabbit would be looking a different way. Like, oh, that was awesome.
It's scary. All right. Well, now we're split 50-50. One vote for the movie, one vote for the book. Wait, is that right? Hold on. What'd you just vote for, Beth? You voted for the movie.
Yeah, barely.
Okay. Yeah, I just confused myself. All right, Laura, what do you think?
Honestly, I'm with Carrie on this one. I think I creeped myself out way more reading the book.
Yeah. Had you seen the movie already?
No.
Interesting.
So maybe that's
Okay,
why.
Maybe
Also.
that's
So
why,
I have
yeah,
a-
'cause
I
I also
have-
didn't.
You also hadn't seen it. Okay, what about you, Meg?
Start for The Shining? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't read it. That's right.
But so I definitely vote for the film. But was something that I was like brushing myself up on the movies and books that we're gonna chat. And one anecdote that I found that I thought was interesting that there was a lot of tension between Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick, because King didn't like the
Yeah.
way that
Mhm.
his book was actually brought to life on the big screen. And I didn't get too
Yeah.
deep into why, but
Mhm.
ultimately, like, he felt like it didn't play out and get, I think, as deep, like, psychologically as it did in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, he like famously really hates the film. So that's interesting.
Wild.
Yeah. I think I'm going to vote for the film in this case. But this discussion has and we're not going to have enough of a sample size to prove or disprove this hypothesis, but I do wonder how much of like which one you prefer, book or film, has to do with just which one you experience first.
Absolutely.
Because that sort of sets the tone for like, this is what this is, right? It's either a book and it's in your mind and the movie's never going to live up to like your imagination, or it's a movie and these characters are already real for you and you already love the setting and like the story. I don't know, maybe not. But I wonder if that has something to do with it.
I agree with you.
But in this case, I guess I'm disproving my point, because in this case, I read the book first and then saw the film, and I'm still voting for film. But I also think this one is tough because, well, a lot of the ones we're going to talk about are iconic, but this movie is so iconic. I just think, even though I agree that I think I was more scared reading the book than I was watching the movie, it's just iconic. Like, how can you argue with it? You know?
Yeah, and Jack Nicholson's performance too, like one of his first that really made him a breakout star and, cemented him as a, Hollywood star. I think that's part of it too, his performance. God, but all of them in that movie were so good. The acting was really terrifying.
Yeah.
In a great way.
Really terrifying. And just like the setting and the place, like so beautiful and like cinematic, and just so much about it was
Mhm.
like gorgeous to behold. So it was well done, like in that respect. But I also, and Beth, you might hate me for saying this, but I often think Stephen King like takes a fantastic simple premise and then throws like stupid monsters and ghosts into it, and it ruins it for me. And I almost think that happened in The Shining. Like, I think it was a story about like mental illness and like depression and isolation, but Stephen King, as he does with many things, just took it way too far to make it scary when he didn't need to do that. And I feel like the film was more gentle with the like ghost idea. I don't know.
Mhm. No, he definitely he throws his punches sometimes, but all of the listeners out there, you should all try 11/22/63. It's my favorite book I ever read in my whole life, and it changed my life. And also, he wrote not the Green. Well,
Shawshank
what's
Redemption.
that? Shawshank
Yeah.
Redemption.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that
we
would have been
should
a really
we should
good
read
one
that
to
too.
discuss. I haven't read that though.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's like 120
Also,
pages.
it's raining really hard. Can you guys hear the rain on the window next to me? Woo, storming.
Can hear it.
Storming Norman.
Ooh.
Okay, let us move on. That was great discussion. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your opinions. I don't remember how we were split. I think more people picked the film. Wait, is that right? Hold on. Go around and say book or movie. I said film.
Film.
Book.
Laura said book too.
So I think if you don't count me, then it was split.
And then it was a split vote. Okay, interesting.
Oh, wow.
Okay, let's move on to the 1990 classic by Michael Crichton, Jurassic Park. Interestingly, when researching this, I found out that this actually started as a screenplay. He initially was writing a screenplay about a college student who like accidentally like kind of clones a dinosaur, and then changed it over and made it a book from the perspective of a child, and then edited it to be like from the perspective of an adult instead, and then went on to help adapt it into the screenplay, which I think is really interesting because then the movie came out, obviously directed by Steven Spielberg, 1993, starring Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, friggin' classic. I'm sure we all saw it in our childhood and it scared us to death and was just so amazing. The scene where she hides from the raptor in the kitchen with like the dishwasher. Oh my God, like so good. So let's talk about it. Who wants to kick us off?
So I have a lot of there's some major differences in this one between book and movie.
What are the most egregious ones in your opinion?
One being the amount of violence.
Okay.
And gore. So the movie's rated PG-13, which I get because they wanted the kids to see it. But in the book, there's like really graphic depictions of not only people like getting ripped apart and like carrying their own intestines, but also dinosaurs being like exploded and ripped in half and all of that.
Sure.
So I get why they did it, but so it depends whether or not that's a pro or con for you.
Fair.
Wow.
What is it for you, Laura? Pro or con?
I feel like reading about that like wasn't as gross as it would have been seeing it, so I think I'm okay with it. Also, in the movie, Jeff Goldblum lives. In the book, he dies, so that's definitely a pro for the movie.
Oh, okay. You like it better. A happy ending.
I mean, yeah, the ending overall is a lot happier in the movie. Just a lot, they kind of, polished it up, made it a little bit prettier, shinier, more like family friendly.
Yeah. That's definitely true. So which do you vote for, book or movie?
I think I'd still say movie because seeing dinosaurs like on the big screen, is just so cool. Like nothing my mind can imagine can live up to like seeing Jurassic Park in a movie theater.
The score is
and
excellent.
Hearing that, I mean, iconic movie score. That I have to say movie.
Okay, interesting. Anyone else?
I have to say, like, I really don't remember if I read this book. If I did, I was a kid, and I might be confusing it with Hot Zone that we had to read.
What is Hot Zone?
The Hot Zone? Oh, it's another like.
I don't know that one.
Oh yeah, that's what's like a Contagion kind of book. It's really good. But anyways, I would just say that I freaking love this movie. The movie still holds up. It was revolutionary for its time with the technology that they used. You should all watch the episode of The Movies That Made Us or The Films That Made Us on Netflix of Jurassic Park. It's fascinating.
Yes.
So I don't know. I pick movie because I don't remember if I read it.
That's fair. I actually feel similarly. I am very sure that I did read it, but it was definitely a long time ago, and I don't remember the specifics. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'll go with movie as well. It's just one of those movies that like I feel like defined my childhood, right? Like I can distinctly remember when it came out and watching it with my family. And so it's, one of those movies that always hold a special place in my heart, if you will. And just another iconic classic. And I'm going to go with the film.
I really like what you said, Laura, that they took this book and they like polished it up. Because I do think that's I feel like for me that's really accurate. Like they took something great, which was the book, which was already like very original and interesting and fun, and then they just polished it and they made it like for everyone. Um and so I'm gonna vote movie as well.
I'm just gonna make it unanimous. I also go with the movie. Everything that you guys said. I remember seeing this in the theaters when it first came out, and it was just it's it's just so amazing. And I've watched it probably a million times, but I agree, it still holds up, and it still looks amazing to see the dinosaurs on screen and the score, and just I also feel like all of the movies after it could never hold up to the original.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
I also didn't read the book, so I can't compare it, but I mean, I feel like the way Laura and Beth felt about The Shining, that's how I feel about Jurassic Park.
Yeah. So classic. All right. Wow. A lot of this book club are voting for movies, so I don't know what that says about
Yeah.
us.
Traitors.
Traitors.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, let's move along. Let's move right along to The Hunger Games. We can talk generally about the series. This is obviously a trilogy, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. The first book came out in 2008. I believe it was simply titled The Hunger Games. The film came out in, sorry, I didn't look this one up in advance.
2012.
Thank you. 2012, obviously starring our girl, Katniss Everdeen. Wait, what's the actress's name?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Thank you. Jennifer Lawrence. I blanked on her name. Jennifer Lawrence. So what do we think? Which one's better, the book or the movie?
The book is the book is better. I mean, I'm not trying to like make up anyone's decisions for that, but like, no, the movie's great. Like, they did a great job, and it's good. But like the book, I think this is one of the cases where like the book just like has so much more going on, and they really couldn't fit it all into the movie. So to me, like, just enjoying the story, like the book is epically like longer and just more in depth and stuff. I also with this one, and I hate saying this because I am so pro diverse body types in Hollywood, seriously. And I desperately want to see bigger women on camera. And I don't even think Jennifer Lawrence is bigger. But I will say the first time I saw that they cast her, that was so weird in my mind because I was reading in the book, they just talk about her being like completely like emaciated and like hungry. And
Yeah.
that was the vision that I had for that character. And then you see Jennifer Lawrence, who is stunningly beautiful. Like I think she's amazing. And I'm glad that she got her break and got to do that and all of that. But I don't think that she was who I would cast in that role. Like based
so for
on
yeah, it was a miscast.
the
okay.
book. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
I agree with that too. And the same goes for Peta, the main guy character that's I think like from her same district. He just was not at all what I pictured. And I agree that the book is just much more in depth to the story, and there's so much more to it. And I felt like the movie it captured, I think, some of the visual well, but it didn't, like Katniss and Peta, both characters, not who I would have chosen from the way they were described in the book. And then there was just so much more complexity that wasn't captured. This was a tough one, I think, from a movie standpoint.
Yeah, there's a lot of character development that you just don't get in the movie. Around like Haymitch and Cinna, and their characters are a lot more like one-dimensional in the movie.
Yeah, the casting is interesting. It's been so long since I've read it, honestly, and like thought about this, but I mean, I kind of agree. Although I love Jennifer Lawrence so much, and I thought she did a fantastic job, and she's like very strong. which is what you want. I think for Katniss, I totally agree with Josh Hutcherson as PETA. Also, when you put him up against Liam Hemsworth as Gale, it's like, okay, well, there's no choice here. Like,
I do
not a
agree
fair
with
fight.
I agree with you. I actually really love the casting of PETA in the movie just because like I feel like him as a person, he like walks the line between being someone that you could like absolutely fall in love with, but maybe not be like the obvious pick.
So you like it for that reason?
I did like it. And also kudos to the movie for Stanley Tucci because I will die on that rock.
Oh my god, so true. He really stole the show, like majorly in that role. Well, here's how I know that I like the book better in this case. I don't know if I've seen any of the later movies. I am certain I've seen the first one. I'm pretty sure I've seen the second one, but beyond that, I couldn't tell you. And I think if I really loved them, I would both remember if I had seen them, but also like would have definitely sought them out. And I didn't.
Very true.
You know.
Yeah, I didn't see the other ones.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a problem. So yeah, I vote book.
I vote book too.
Me too. Oh, I already said it.
Yeah, and I didn't chime in yet, but I'm going with the book as well.
Yes.
I read all 3 of them and loved them.
We have redeemed ourselves.
Right.
As a book club.
Thank you, Hunger Games.
Thank you, Hunger Games. Yeah, no, those books were so good. Also, I feel like, maybe this isn't true because I think Twilight happened in between, but this was a book I really connected with, like, similarly to, like, Harry Potter. Like, I looked forward to the next ones. I really was invested. I, like, really loved reading them. Like, it was a great series that sucked you in, and I had been looking for that, like, at the time.
Hard
So
agree.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Suzanne. All right. Moving on. Just 2 years later, we get a book, a little old book called Room, Room, by Emma Donoghue, published 2010, Little Brown. And then followed up by the movie directed by Lenny Abramson in 2015. It sounds like the screenplay was actually written also by Emma Donoghue, who is the author of the book. Of course, this movie starred Brie Larson in her breakout role, for which she won Best Actress at the Academy Awards. Oh, it also gave us Jacob Tremblay, who is such a gift.
He's so adorable.
That young child. So this one, I think, I don't know. How many of you all have read Room?
I have.
Not me.
So I've read it, and I read it before I watched the movie, which is, you know, my preferred order of doing things.
Yes.
But yeah, did anyone else read it?
Yes, I did.
I read it, but I watched the movie first.
Ooh, okay. So what do we think? Which one's better? Megan?
Oh, this is tough.
Yeah, I mean, just like classic situation. If I read the book first, then I'm sold on that, and that's what happened here. Like, it was just such a like I don't know, like psychological type of thriller. Like you get into the psyche of this little boy, and it's just one of the stories. It's like this type of thing isn't that far fetched to happen,
Yeah.
and like as scary as that is, but like those real life type of situations, I don't know, I find very interesting too. So and yeah, I thought the book was really well done, but I mean, I really liked the movie as well, but the book came first.
Okay. One vote for book. Carrie?
Oh, this is so hard. I think I might have to fall back on the whichever media or whichever one that you I guess consumed first. So
Yeah.
I read the book after I saw the movie because I felt like it was such a dramatic subject matter, and I found it to be just really, really enthralling and like darkly interesting, as sick as it is. But it was just so interesting to understand the depth of Jack in this book. And so I watched the movie first, I loved it, and then I read the book and I was like, wow, I also love it. But I think because I saw the movie first, and I think also because this, you know, maybe compared to Hunger Games where we were saying that the movie like doesn't capture as much of the book, I felt like in Room, the movie did quite a good job of actually keeping the visual something that is like I had pictured. This was a tougher one for me to picture in my mind. So I'm going to have to go with the movie.
Okay. Oh man, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with the book. Although I agree the movie was fantastic. I think for me, this was such an intense subject matter that I almost liked it was hard to watch. And I think I liked reading about it better than I liked watching it happen.
I can see that.
Because if you all don't know, this is a story about a woman, who's kidnapped and kept alone in a room, and she has a child by her kidnapper, and they just live basically in his shed. Because it is real, like you said, Megan, like this shit happens, and the book itself is written from the perspective of the little boy, Jack. And I remember just being so moved by that and feeling really like that it was very unique and emotional and like well constructed. And you lose that when you watch the movie, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I vote book in this one. Anyone else have opinions on Room? Brie Larson is my jam, though, and I totally agree that she deserved the Oscar. And she was fantastic. And as was Jacob Tremblay. Like, all the performances were amazing. William H. Macy as the scary guy, like, all of it was great. So it's fantastic. I don't want to take away from it. I think in this case they were both great, but the book for me. Oh, and I read it first, then watched the movie. So again, it's like the one that you experience first, maybe. All right, let's move on to our final book versus movie head-to-head competition. This one, Gone Girl. Published 2012 by Gillian Flynn, Crown Publishing Group. This book took the world by storm. I remember getting on the train at some point. This was must have been when I commuted to work, and just looking around and seeing 6 people reading this book all at once. It was like a tidal wave. Everyone had to read this book. And that might also be because Gillian Flynn is from the Chicago suburbs, but it was huge. It was just a massive book. It interestingly did not, I was just reading about it before this book did not win any awards, which is baffling to me, considering what a just insane juggernaut it was in the publishing industry. It didn't win any awards, didn't get nominated for anything. I think it got a little bit shuffled to the side or judged because it's kind of a thriller. I mean, it is a thriller, but I think that genre is maybe not taken as seriously or hasn't been historically as just literary fiction. I think that although this book has probably changed that, this book is I think it changed publishing. I mean, think of how many books we've all read since this book that, first of all, have the word girl in the title.
Mm-hmm.
Or second of all, involve unreliable narrators and psychological twists with a female lead. It's just super common now, and it definitely wasn't before Gone Girl. So that's about the book. Then the movie, incredibly, came out only 2 years later in 2014. So this shit was fast-tracked. David Fincher, it starred Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. I think it was her breakout role. Pike was nominated for an Academy Award. In this case, she did not win. I remember being furious that they had cast Ben Affleck because I just thought it was such a bad choice.
Same.
Although I ultimately thought he did an okay job.
But it just was so different from how I pictured that character.
Yeah. And I remember thinking well, I'm sure they're thinking what a coup, we got Ben Affleck. But also, this was the biggest book in the world. They could have gotten anyone. And they went with Ben Affleck? Really?
I mean, I don't think they didn't need a big name.
Right. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Book or movie?
100% book.
Yes, I agree. I think Rosamund Pike is fine.
This book is iconic.
Ooh, this one's tough. I saw the movie first and then I read the book. I'm just such a sucker for
Oh,
the first.
Carrie, you keep doing it backwards.
I know I keep doing it backwards because once I find out that a movie I watch is a book, I'm really curious to read it. I'm gonna have to go with movie, I think. It's just like,
Ooh.
I mean, the book was amazing though, and I totally agree that it changed the way a lot of writers went about that thriller um genre moving forward. But
Yeah.
I guess so then when I read the book, I had Rosamund's and Ben Affleck's face in my mind. I don't know. I guess it's just I'm just a sucker for like whatever I see first.
Yeah. I mean, Rosamund Pike was wonderful in it.
Yes,
And I
she was.
felt like the movie, I'm
Mm-hmm.
team book. I mean, this book is, it's an unbelievable book. It's one I actually would like to revisit and read again. I remember so vividly reading this book. I read it in like 12 hours. I absolutely could not put it down. I just laid on my couch and read it until I finished it. It was so scary. It was full of so many twists and turns. I just think this is one of those rare books that a movie's never going to do it justice. Never.
No, this book was so good. I would just be sitting in my car listening to it and like needing to find out what happened next. I mean, when the big twist happened, I was like audibly gasping in my car. Like the book elicited like so many reactions from me. And the main reason though I'm book versus movie is the cool girl section
Mhm.
of this book. Like, it just spoke to me. It was just so true. And they changed the wording for the movie, and I just don't think it's as powerful.
So that's what we were talking about at the beginning. Like, you get attached to like really specific parts of a book, specific dialogue, specific moments, and then if they're changed or they're not included, it's so frustrating that you can't even like watch it.
It's also interesting because I listened to the audio book of Gone Girl. So not only do I have like the visions in my head of what people look like, but then I'm actually hearing voices and tone and all of that. So I heard someone deliver this iconic monologue, and it's so powerful. And then in the movie, it just didn't feel the
Which I will
same.
also point out that the audiobook is read by Julia Whalen, who is, in my opinion, absolutely the best audiobook actor out there. I will listen to anything she reads. She's
interesting.
so fantastic. And she has read many like very popular books. But I was pleased to see that Gone Girl's on the list. I didn't listen to it. That would actually be really fun. This is one I would definitely go back and listen to. Maybe I'm going to put it on my list.
She's amazing because the tone that she changes into after the twist, like, just made it that much more powerful. Like the way that she read Amy, and then just completely changed her tone, just like added so much to it. I feel like
that's really fun. I never thought about that. This was like way before. I didn't start listening to audiobooks until like maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, Gone Girl made me not hate my commute for like a week. So thank you for that.
I love that. What a beautiful journey. Okay, wait. So Carrie, you said movie, and the rest of us said book.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I'm relieved to know that this book club does indeed like books.
Yeah, we do.
So good job, everyone. This has been a really fun debate. Anything else we didn't talk about that you all wanted to touch on, like specifically for any of these books or movies, or just in general about books versus movies?
I know we didn't get to A Simple Favor, but I just am still floored by how bad the book was and how great the movie was, and just how they were able to like turn what is not a good book into a great movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You guys, the book was just so not good. And then I think I was just so flawed, or not flawed. I was so scarred that I just couldn't with the movie.
Yeah. I kind of agree. I didn't think the movie was very good either, but I did think it fixed a lot of the issues that the book had. That book read like a first draft.
How did they decide to make that book into a movie?
Yeah.
I don't know what they saw in it. Yeah.
I remember reading some review. This was A Simple Favor we read in, it must have been August or September 2020. 2018. So a couple of years ago. It was like one of the first books we read as a book club. And then we went to see the movie that was coming out in theaters, which was so fun. It was like one of the only, I think that's the only time we've done that. But the book was just, it was honestly one of the worst books I've ever read. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're going to go see this movie. We all bought tickets. We're going to go to this whole big thing. I'm like, it's going to be so bad. And it wasn't. It was a relief. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great.
I thought all things considered, I guess my expectations then were like on the floor.
Yeah.
That I found it
Couldn't have
good.
been
And
lower.
it was one of the few instances where like adding a character that was not in the book actually was a positive addition.
Yeah, that's true. But again, in this case, I think it's similar to what you said about Jurassic Park. Like they polished it up. They took some major flaws in the novel and straightened them out or omitted them in the movie, which really was a relief. But yeah, I remember reading a review early on that was like, the biggest coup for this book is how on earth the author managed to sell this as a screenplay. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think it was on a bunch of lists of if you like Gone Girl, read this. And I think that's probably the only way that they were able to even get that made, was to say like, oh, it's the next Gone Girl.
Right. Which, I mean, how many books claim that nowadays? Like, frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the books that say girl. I'm sick of them that say, if you like Gone Girl, you like, first of all, nothing will ever be Gone Girl again.
Nor should
It's
it,
almost
right?
like, don't
it
even
kind
go
of broke the mold, right? Like it's like a different,
It did.
I don't know.
Yeah, it did. Although, interestingly, Gillian Flynn's other books have also been turned into, like, Dark Places, Sharp Objects.
Oh, so good.
Have also been turned into movies or miniseries. Like Sharp Objects, I don't know if anybody watched it on HBO. It was really, excuse my language, fucked up. Starring Amy Adams.
The book is very fucked up.
Yeah. And I think maybe this is another situation where it's easier to read that content than it is to watch it. Because I did not like the series.
Well, I'm going to have to
And I
check
liked
it
the
out
book,
because
so.
I don't mind a little effed upness.
Yeah, Beth, it's probably for you. It's on HBO. And it does have Amy Adams and what's his name? The cute guy from Mindy Project. Anyways, all right. Well, great to discuss this age-old debate. Which is better, the book or the movie? Thank you all for being here. I love you all so much.
Love you, Brooks.
And it's so fun to celebrate season 3 of Books with Brooks. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Can you believe it? Wow. Really listen to myself talk for 3 years.
Kudos
Incredible.
to you, Brooks. That's awesome.
Thanks, my girls. Well, everyone, don't forget to read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And yeah, happy reading.
Yep, we'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Books with Brooks is produced by Mo Barrow with theme music by Jonathan Allen. Books with Brooks is part of the Press Play Podcast Network, which empowers hosts to create high-quality professional shows that inspire and entertain. If you've been dreaming of hosting your own podcast, we can help. Please email content@pressplaypodcast.com to get started today. Please be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.